We are charting the higher octave with my guest today, New York-based, aka Schnock. I have David, who's joining me today.
Hello,
For you.
Shauna, DJ Nocturna, and all the whole audience. Great to hang.
And good morning to you. Good afternoon to you. Are you in New York right now?
I am.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm always intrigued with music that are unique and different, and
Hmm.
that has a depth, depth to it. I know there's a lot of depth to your music, and it's really interesting how you speak through your music, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
So the interesting thing too is the name of your band. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about? How did you form, and what's the story behind the name? I'm sure most
Yeah,
people would say that first, but for one thing, if I was an audience for the first time, I would say, "How do you pronounce that?" And well, I wonder where that came from. I wonder where they pick up that name. You know.
I'd be happy to tell you about it. And yes, people do have that reaction and that curiosity. There's a short story and a long story. Ecce Schnock means, hey, look at this, in a combination of Latin and nonsense words. So ecce in Latin means behold, and Schnock means whatever you want it to. And Schnock is a word I kind of made up, kind of accidentally, unwittingly stole from Yiddish. We had a family friend who used the word schnockered once in a while, which means drunk. Um, and I think I heard that, enjoyed it, forgot that I heard it, enjoyed it, and then came up with, quote unquote, the word schnock to mean whatever you want it to. Um, so that I've had the word schnock in my lexicon since I was a young person. Um, but then when I started this band about 15 years ago, my friend asked me, well, what are you going to call it? And I said, I don't know, good question. And he knew that I loved the writings of Friedrich Nietzsche,
Mm.
um, the German philosopher who Freud said he had to stop reading or else he'd worried he would not have any original ideas. So Nietzsche, all of his flaws notwithstanding, is a beautiful writer and a really interesting thinker with a lot of depth and a lot of fascinating the subjects he discusses and fascinating ideas and a really engaging style. And so his autobiography is called Ecce Homo,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually a reference to Jesus. Um, Even though he bragged about being the philosopher of the Antichrist, there are actually many Christian theologians that think he was a Christian pretending to be an anti-Christian. So ecce homo is a phrase used in art history that describes a scene from the Jesus story. I don't know exactly what scene it is, but it means behold this man, or behold the man. And so Nietzsche called his autobiography that. And then my friend was like, what about Ecce Schnock? Um, and I thought that was great. Behold Schnock. And then the translation is something like, hey, check this out. Look at this. Hey, look at this.
Yeah. I mean, don't you just love it when you have something and it's just like just hits that chord? That's it. That
Yeah.
sounds perfect. It's like meant to happen.
Hmm. Yes. And it's certainly a dilemma because neither of those words are easy to spell or to even know what the person has said. So we've made business cards to
I know.
help this conversation a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I think of, like one of my favorite hip hop artists, Talib Kweli. He had the same challenge, and he's
Mm.
had all in all, quite a successful career. And he's written music about his name and explaining his name and teaching people his name. So I think I sort of took that on and like tried to learn from him in that way.
Yeah. So you said you formed about, what did you say, 14 years ago?
Yes, I've had different versions of it since I was 25 years old.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
So 14 years ago, I know you were doing something completely different. You weren't doing music. I think you were psychotherapist or something like that. Is that
I
right?
was
Yeah.
I was on that path. I was starting off that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the name of your EP that's coming out, I mean, it's out already February 7th, is kind of, I think that began your journey in music began during that time, right? Because
Yes, that's correct.
this song title, which
Hmm.
is already out, but I'm gonna make sure this goes out really quickly after this interview. Um, Shadows Grow Fangs. That's been, I mean, that concept, I guess that song particularly. There's a song in that EP, the same name, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So how did that? Can you maybe let's go there because I know this EP is already out and this. What is the inspiration behind this particular EP?
Yes, Shadows Grow Fangs is basically a reference to a tragic thing that can happen in human life, wherein sometimes we are hurt or angry or lonely or a problematic combination of those feelings. And in the darkness of those feelings, the shadows, we imagine threats or violence that aren't actually there. Sometimes there really are threats and violence for sure. I don't mean to negate that. But sometimes we also imagine things when they aren't there. And so the shadows of hurt, anger, loneliness, a loneliness can grow fangs of resentment, bitterness, misanthropy, further isolation from others. And it actually occurred to me when I was biking home from my job. So the first lyric
I can see the
is,
video. Hmm.
yeah, I meant no harm. I was just biking home. Shadows grow fangs when you're all alone. And so I was biking home from my job in South Philadelphia, where I was working with the most marginalized people in the city, well, at least some of them, um, dealing with their economic and spiritual and emotional and social stresses, which are hard enough. And then it was even harder by the very decrepit, cruel, exploitative system that we live in. And so I had spent the whole day in these shadows, in these fanged shadows, and I was biking home at 9 p.m. It was on a day of the week in which I worked late. And I saw a cat in the street light, and the cat looked very cute. And I, my first sort of maybe childish response was, oh, this kitty and I can make friends and have a connection. And as soon as I saw the cat and it, and had this thought, it ran off into the darkness, into
Hmm.
the shadows. And I felt immediately resentful of the cat at the same time that I knew I was kind of being silly consciously, I still noticed that I was projecting, imagining a lot of meanness from the cat onto me. Um, and so the second half of that first verse, the first verse begins again. I meant no harm. I was just biking home. Shadows grow fangs when you're all alone. What it would have meant to me had you kept your head. But without these fight or flight reactions, you would probably be dead. Run, little one, be on your way then. Fine, I'll never be your friend. Brutalize another innocent rodent. Think of me in a lonely moment. So, ah, getting a little, getting a little misty for
No,
getting.
no, that's really interesting because when you think about those shadows, right? We all have shadows. I think. I mean, we all develop them sometime in childhood, maybe. And so I can see what you're trying to express because these shadows develop, and so there's a healing, right? We have to go through to kind of I don't know if you can get rid of the shadows completely, but you can kind of tone it down a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard, having these shadows that somebody gave us or somebody threw to us or we created ourselves, but we all have these shadows. And I know we try to connect with somebody and they run away. So that's a really good analogy of the cat because the cats do, they don't want to be near you. They don't know who you are. They kind of move away. And we try to embrace the lighter side of things. We have to overcome the shadows first.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that's always the hard part because we all develop them through childhood, right? Is that wound that we have a hard time to heal.
Absolutely. And it makes sense because the world is dangerous and it is flawed, if you want to call it. That's like a pretty good word for the
Yeah.
difficulties of life. And yet the problem is sometimes we sometimes we correctly notice threats. Sometimes we fool ourselves into thinking there are threats there when there aren't. Sometimes
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
not threatened when we shouldn't when we should be. And so we're in a complicated circumstance.
I know. It's almost like a vicious cycle. It really is. Like, how do you get rid of it? People develop it and you try to get away from them because they're just so negative or however you want to call it. And it's
Absolutely.
hard. And it's hard to because because you might appear negative to them, or you have that shadow side. So that's a very interesting, at first, when I first read that, I thought, I don't know why I was thinking this. I was reading it like Shadows Grow Fangs. And and that actually makes sense too, that's for sure.
Oh yes, that is the meaning. Shadows grow fangs. Yes, the teeth of like our fear and our anger. We grow
Uh-huh.
teeth.
Right.
Uh, the you know we the image of a shadow can look like maybe a head or something, and then we see fangs. We see sharp, dangerous teeth come from
Right. The
shadows.
shadow side,
Yeah,
the darkness that you never saw coming,
yeah, yeah.
if you could say. Wow, that's really interesting. I like that. I like things that you have to investigate,
Yes, thank you.
investigate the meaning behind things. So your band, so tell us a little bit about the members, and I know you're the founder.
Hmm.
You got a drummer and a vocalist, another vocalist and a guitarist and a drummer. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I have an incredible group of people that are playing this music with me. A fellow singer, so I'm baritone. The other singer in the band, Bella, is I think contralto. I can't remember her
Mhm.
exact voice part, but she's an alto. higher alto. Um, then I have a drummer and two guitarists, and I play bass too. So it's a quintet, and there are lovely people and brilliant musicians, and I just am very honored to know them and to work with them.
So how did you find them, or how did you guys connected to form the band?
So, there have been many lineups over the 15 years. I moved to New York City in 2010, or excuse me, sorry, 2015. Gosh. And I needed to move here because, I moved here from Philadelphia, and my friend suggested these are you have some of the best musicians in the world in New York City, and he
Mhm.
was right. And um, I put a Craigslist ad out, and I met the drummer that's still playing in the band, Henry, through
Mhm.
that Craigslist ad, and then um, various changes of the lineups have happened since around then. So that I think we met probably in 2017, and different people have come and gone, but this current lineup came about through Bella was a fan
Mhm.
at one of the shows in Allston, Massachusetts. Well, she wasn't a fan at the time. She hadn't heard us, but we played a house show at a house she was living at, and she loved it. And we had struck up a conversation before the show, and really kind of immediately we're like, oh, who's this interesting person? What's your deal? And so we kind of just had that connection. We had a really fun time at the show. She had a really fun time as a person living there, as a new fan, not realizing that she would ever move to New York City or then uh, join the band. But I think in September 2021, I needed a new singer, and I remembered, holy crap, that cool lady who was in
Mhm.
the audience at that show in Allston, Massachusetts, just moved here. And holy crap, her solo music is excellent. She has a really fantastic solo project. It's Lana Del Rey infused art pop, I would say, just a quick one liner on that. And she had already put out some beautiful music at that time, and so I reached out to her for an audition, and she said, "Hell yeah, I remember your band. Let's meet somewhere." So we met in Prospect Park in
Mhm.
the sun, and I had a speaker, and she just sang her ass off right away, and it was like she just walked into the band, no big deal.
Yeah.
So that's Henry and Bella. And then the two guitarists I met through a former bassist of the band, um, a really talented bass player and songwriter herself who knew a lot of excellent musicians. And when we needed guitarists, that former bassist um, uh, hooked us up with Chris and Gannon. And I'm sort of as impressed by and haunted by their abilities as guitarists from a pure technical standpoint, but also, and this is kind of the haunting side, from a sound standpoint, they wouldn't need pedals to be amazing instrumentalists. They already are amazing,
Mhm.
but they're just as good with their pedals as they are virtuosos with their hands, and they get their guitars to sound sometimes just like badass rock or metal or pop sounding guitar, but sometimes they can get it to sound like any kind of keyboard,
Hmm.
you know, other instruments, and and so yeah, that's a kind of like once over on my crew.
Yeah. Your music incorporates a lot of different styles and texture. I can see the different types of genre forming in there. Do you intentionally seek out the genre that you're trying to fuse into your music, or does it happen naturally, or is it something that I guess it goes with the writing too, right? The writing, is it automatic?
I think a little bit of
Is it
both.
spontaneous or structured, I guess you could say?
I think a little bit of both.
Hmm.
I think I have always felt incapable of staying in one genre. I my interests are, for better or for worse, you know, heterogeneous. I like all kinds of things.
Hmm.
I kind of sometimes compare it to being a therapist.
Hmm.
I wasn't a therapist. I was just an intake worker, like,
Hmm.
which is the kind of job you get when you hope to someday become a therapist. But even as an intake worker, when you're meeting patients for the first time, you see every kind of person.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
um, with most of the problems in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and then forget problems, you with all kinds of virtues and unique ways of speaking and body language and all of that. And so I kind of look at genres in the same way, just like whole spirits that I can't expect myself to fully understand from one conversation or 10 or 20 or 100, but I am curious about them and I really want to, and I can see myself in them also. Um,
Mm.
I can see my spirit in these spirits. Um, and I want to merge with theirs if I find it compelling. And another metaphor I use
It's
sometimes
a really
is
interesting metaphor you put there. It's like a genre, right? Every person, it's like a genre. That's true. Personality, yeah. And,
exactly,
and if you could connect with them because you connect with that genre, then you connect with them.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Are you still doing that? Are you still in that career, by the way? I mean,
I am not, I
okay.
am totally a musician. I want to, I still kind of tell myself, David, you need to do some volunteer work. There's a lot of people that need help, and you could be helpful. So you should get around to doing that. So at
Yeah.
some point in the rest of my life, I hope to take that on. But at the moment, I'm just a musician.
You're using your creative side.
That's true. That's true.
I think some people who have a I mean, I'm talking about, the shadows, how we talked about it. They exert their shadow side to negative things when they should be doing it to creative things.
Pardon me, my doggy is barking at a ball that he wants to play with.
Oh, I can't even
Uh,
hear it.
okay, okay. Uh, I don't know what. Okay, yes. I agree with you about the shadow side of people. Yeah.
You know how people exert their they they utilize their shadow side to use it in creative endeavors, right? Creative projects, creative things,
Yes,
and that's a good thing, I guess you could say. Or else they'll do other things with it, which is not a good thing.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
this is part of the learning life.
Yes, that's right. And you know, there are misadventures with that. Like, um, there's the one kind of most almost ridiculously obvious example. I can't remember what the death metal band is called, but there are like a couple, at least one death metal band stories where one of them kills, and maybe is there somebody eat one of the other members? I don't know.
Oh,
Uh,
like real life?
Cannibalism. Um, uh, yeah, I thought there's some. Is the band Mayhem? I don't know. I can't
Oh,
remember. But that's where the shadow side did not sublimate itself adequately, to say the least, and they just actually killed each other. But in general, you're right. Music is a way of
thing.
guiding,
It's a healing thing.
healing these
Yeah,
things.
for sure. Just doing something creative with it, and I mean, you help people through music too. You inspire people. You give them that something to listen to and appreciate.
That's right.
So I know this. Yeah, your EP is out now, and it's out on the record label Records Man.
Hmm.
Yeah, is that right? Records Man. Yeah.
Yes, Records Man Records is
Oh,
the
Records Man. Okay, little tongue tied there. Records Man Records. Okay, and then you're planning on having an album in the future, right? This is an
yeah.
EP. Yeah.
So we have this 5 song EP that has a bit of a glimpse into, like you said, the variety of the styles that I endeavor to write in. And this next release we have at least 12 tracks fully recorded.
Oh,
We
okay. So there's more that's not released yet from
Yes,
this.
for a full length album, not for Shadows Grow
Okay.
Fangs, but we have a full length album that we're going to release sometime over the next year
Okay. So there'll be more singles coming out then.
in in quite a long time. But yes,
Okay.
maybe not quite a long time, but maybe 9 months or something like that. I don't know the exact timeline, but yeah, there's a lot more music. And Shadows Grow Fangs, the 5 song EP, is quite a good uh, suggestion of what the new music will be like. As are the 3 albums we have before Shadows Grow Fangs. We have 2 EPs and a full length.
Yeah. I love the song, The Internet. That's a very
Yes,
interesting song. And I like how you put that together with all these different what do you call it? It's almost like the mind trying to figure out things, That's what it sounds like, the mind. You have a it's a do I mean you have a what is her name? Your singer,
Bella.
Bella. Yeah, she's and you have and then you're in it and you guys are collaborating there.
Hmm.
And the
Yeah,
internet is a very interesting thing because it seems to be like a source of knowledge for most people now, right?
yes,
And whether they're true or not, sometimes that's we're still trying to figure that out. Whatever they're seeking, right?
that's right.
I mean, it seems to be like a place where we can, if you want to know how to do something, we just go on YouTube.
Yeah,
It's, if you want to find something out, you just go to Chat GPT or look in the internet.
right,
I
right.
mean, compared to how it used to be when people look to books and research and
Yeah, that is interesting. I think there's an absurd contradiction where, on the one hand, one can be subject to the most cruel bigotry imaginable because, people can basically communicate with each other telepathically through social media or through
Yeah.
Reddit, YouTube comments, and you can say the most hurtful things anybody's ever said very easily without the challenge of saying it to somebody's face, which makes it disastrously easy for
Mm-hmm.
all these fanged, shadowed weirdos out in the world. So on the one hand, there's this cruelty and this misery and this sadness in it. And then on the other hand, you have access to all these things that can be helpful.
Right.
Maybe
It's a
somebody
big contradiction, right? Yeah, exactly.
maybe somebody deals with um, homophobia or transphobia from one part of the internet, but then they can find another part of the internet where there's a community of support or
Yeah.
pornography that they might enjoy or
Mhm.
something that if in the middle of Mississippi, if you can't have certain conversations that are helpful and necessary for you in a,
It's like a
evangelical.
Yeah, it's like a brand new world. When you go into the internet, you're on your own world. So it's like it's another world. It's like another reality.
Right.
And that's the interesting. And I love how you put that together. And I know that I'm looking at your lyrics here, Father Salad.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, do you want to tell us a little bit about that? That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So the first minute or so of the song is this kind of free associated uh jumble of imagery around the internet.
Mm.
It's the thing is there's simple things about complex things about complex things, complex things about simple things, and simple things about simple things.
Yeah, love that.
That's how the first statement, and maybe this is the voice of the internet telling you what it is. Like this is all the information you've dumped onto me, all these like, memes or all these bank account numbers or
I know. Yeah.
disastrous videos, snuff films, whatever, or religious texts, Wikipedia, all of here's the simple things, complex things. So that's all that. And then the next thing the voice says is, "What's your tenderest memory?" And then it breaks into two and it says, "It's your salad." And that's one voice, one part of the voice. And then it says, "It's your father." And I can't explain exactly where I got the idea that the voice of the internet, I guess that's what that voice is telling us that our tenderest memory is a salad or a father. But I think what I'm thinking of is, like people use the phrase food porn. They'll say,
Mhm.
"Oh, I made this wonderful salad. It's, very healthy, but I got this lemon zest and these walnuts and the feta cheese and the whatever, crumbled this and the pecans, whatever. Look at my salad. This food porn. The picture of the salad says, take a picture of your salad." And then all of us, also tend to take pictures of our loved ones, and then take a picture of your father, and then in this mix of simple things, complex things, simple things, these pictures of salads and fathers are just this kind of spewing primordial mess turned into internet information and presented to each individual and to uh, internet users at large. And that sort of begins this song, and then the singers enter and we sing, "I'll wear my little thummy to the bone, but I'll never wear down my worry stone." And that's, the phrase doom scrolling. So like The phone
Yeah.
almost looks like a worry stone. People rub a blank phone, a blank stone just to get their worry out. We kind of do the same things with our phone. And wear my little thummy to the bone, but I'll never wear down my worry stone. And it says that a number of times, and then um the kind of main question of the song, I'll use the word heck. I don't know if we can swear. The lyric is what the
I,
heck is the
yeah.
internet? Or what the schnock is the internet, maybe. Um,
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, everything's
it's a
just
like philosophical question.
yeah.
What is this thing that we enjoy, that we are annoyed by, that we're bored by, that we need, that we could do without? What is this preposterous phenomenon that you and me are talking on now, that your listeners have connected with you
Yeah,
on?
that's the good side of the internet.
That's right. That's right.
There's a good side and the bad side, but either way is moving so quickly. If you
Yes.
notice that, sometimes it's mind-boggling. All these things, all the knowledge we're absorbing through the internet in
Absolutely.
various forms. There's so much knowledge out there, and it's coming through, and you have nowhere to store it. Really, it's over. It's over. I mean, it's almost like all the things on in front of you. If you have a desk and you have all these things, you have all the things stored in your online that is exploding. Is pretty soon there won't be any room for anything. It's just going so quickly. The
That,
memory, the passwords, all the stuff you got to put down that you can't remember it. Your mind just can't handle it.
yes, that's right.
I mean, it's like another reality. That's why I'm so glad you put this song out because it really does show a lot about what is going on out there with the internet. I mean,
Thank
just the way you put your music. I mean, it really is. It's a what is the word? It's the way that you put your creative process and how people can interpret it that way. If they want, if they from a musical standpoint, what's really going on? Does that make sense?
it. It very much does. I appreciate that. I'm glad it lands for you and it feels meaningful to you.
Yeah. It feels almost cinematic, honestly.
Excellent. Excellent. That's awesome.
Do you have a favorite if you were to make your music cinematic, would you have a director you wanna are you inspired by any particular director that would probably direct your music? Direct your
Sure. Well, the most recent music video for the last song on the EP, the song is called Stroll With Me, and it's the only folk song in the ECCE SHNAK catalog. It's just me and my voice and a guitar. And there's no other ECCE SHNAK song in the now four releases we have where that's the instrumentation. And the song is about a precious friend of mine who chose to leave the earth when she was still a young woman, about a little less than a decade ago. And she was a lovely person,
Mhm.
brilliant songwriter, and I just adored and adore her. And I had started writing the song when we were just finished with our romance, when we were 23 years old,
Mhm.
had taken turns breaking each other's hearts. And I was like, well, now that we're done with this, now we can just be friends. This is great. And she felt the same way. And 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 so I started writing this folk song that was sort of supposed to be sad and supposed to be very serious and grievous. And then I forgot about it for about a decade. And then she made the choice that she made out of nowhere. And I was not expecting it at all. And then this pretend sad song that I had forgot about and hadn't worked on, I was like, well, let's finish that. Let's finish writing that song. So I did with a friend of mine and we recorded it. And then when the music video came around, I thought of what obviously, how are we going to depict these themes of grief and death and, um, the kind of challenge of staying alive, given all of the challenges of life.
Hmm.
Uh, and Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal came to mind.
Oh,
And, um, there's some gross
there's
stuff in there.
thinking about him, Ingmar Bergman. There's a play he did. We're talking about the same guy, Strawberry something. Anyway, it's great. Yeah, good choice.
Thank you. Yeah, so Bella, the other singer in the band, we basically took my story of myself and my beloved friend who made the choice she made, and we just imagined uh, some other guy saying goodbye to his friend who made the same kind of choice. And so Bella plays his character's loved one, and I play that character. But she plays his character as a ghost, as a kind of the angel of death, in the same way that in the seventh seal, the angel of death is this fellow with the pasty white
Oh yeah,
face and the
I saw the video.
black
Great
cloak.
video.
And so they play chess together in that film, and we play chess in this. Sorry, my doggy is harassing us.
No,
He,
I was wondering. I was hearing that voice, and I was going, "Hey, there's a spiritual."
yeah, that's the doggy on the couch over there. He's tearing the couch
That's okay. That's really
up.
cute. Okay.
So, yeah, Ingmar Bergman was a big one for that. Um, and then we've done some more kind of chaotic things in other music videos. There's an animated music video where my character is a maniac who tries to attack these two young women, and the young women summon these spirits from um, the uh, supernatural realm who kill my character uh, very cinematically and symbolically through an animation, and we based that animation on the Beavis and Butthead Do America movie. Do you remember
Oh
that
yeah. Yeah.
film?
Uh,
Which is there's a hilarious um, sequence where they take acid and
oh yeah,
all
I
of the
remember that part.
monsters. Yeah, yeah. So um,
Just trying to remember. What was the name of that film that he did? Anyway, I know you'll come back to me soon. Wild Strawberries.
I will check that out.
Yeah, it's a very. I think you would like it. It's also deep, profound. So I think it's one of his best.
I
But
will.
speaking of the time travel, right? Going back to the past, because I know this big influence to your past and what you were doing before. If you could time travel to meet a past version of yourself before starting the band, what piece of a what would you do, or what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Good question. Um, I would say take your own advice, bub. Keep yourself out of your own shadows and stay connected with people. When you feel lonely or resentful or angry or something, I would say stay connected with people that you love and that love you. Um, Stay out of your own shadows. That would be one thing I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to do it. when you're aware, right?
Right.
When people are going through this, it's hard because it kind of blinds, it kind of blurs the whole perception of reality, of what's really
Yes,
happening, the reality of what's really happening.
that's right.
And
It,
that's why fights start, the shadows. People take their shadow side into a connection, and then there's a big explosion, and it's really hard to even realize that that's their shadow because you have your own shadow you're fighting with.
yes.
So
Yes.
it's kind of hard to even decipher. Okay, well, it's not me. It's not that person. It's also me. I'm also connected to this whole thing. That's why I can't. That's why we can't meet. We can't fuse together.
Yes. Yeah, it's only one version of this kind of shadow, but again, to go back to Friedrich Nietzsche, a lot of people know this statement. He says in his book, The Gay Science, careful when fighting a monster not to become a monster yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And people see the whole thing with that is that it's really hard to do it at the moment. It takes time to remove yourself from that environment to really realize what happened. That's why people take a break.
Yeah,
But then when they come back, it doesn't mean that it won't happen again. You know, it's just it's like it's really a cycle of. That's why we have a cycle of abuse in relationships.
absolutely. That phrase, hurt people, you know.
I mean, thank you for doing this interview because really it does come into. I mean, if people are watching, hopefully it will inspire them to realize what's happening in their life.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully. And then an important thing is also to practice mercy with oneself and with others,
Yeah.
which is not to say you don't hold yourself or other people accountable, but it's to say that there's a specific thing not to do, which is punishment and revenge.
Right.
If
Right.
you
Exactly.
if you can avoid punishment and revenge, you can give yourself, if you're the one who has done harm, or the other person, if somebody else has done harm to you or others, you give them the chance to undo or redeem or transform the harms that anybody might have caused. And
Mm.
so mercy is a crucial principle in this.
I know forgiveness is the best thing, really. Forgiveness to heal, but a lot of people don't know how to do that
Right.
because they're in the middle. Because they're vibrating on a lower level.
Yeah.
In order
Hmm.
to be in the higher level, you need to. It takes time. It takes awareness, really. I mean, you would be a good. I mean, that career you had in mind, you should continue to do it because I think you would be a really good. You're really good at it. You would, believe it or
Thank
not,
you.
you are. I mean, I know you like music and all that stuff, but maybe you should do it on the side. And
Yes.
if it doesn't, I mean, if you still have interest in it, some people outgrow what they love in the past.
Yes.
But because we're constantly evolving and changing.
Right. I appreciate that. Again, maybe there's some kind of volunteer capacity I could do something like that sort of work, mentoring, or I don't know. I have to look into that more, but I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Was there a small, like seemingly insignificant moment in your life that had a huge impact on your artistic journey or where you are now?
The first thing,
Because I know what you mentioned about the bike riding. That's significant.
yes, yes.
That's a
Hmm.
significant. That's why you put it on video because you remembered.
Yes.
And maybe you won't know the insignificant because it's kind of hidden.
Well, it's funny. I actually do remember
Oh,
something
okay.
off
All right.
the top of my head. Um, so it's a great question. And pardon, my doggy is now drinking water, so there's extra soundscape for your listeners. There's
All right.
doggy ASMR. If
Whenever a dog or a cat has anything, they make a noise. I always tell this to my guests. The dog's
yes,
okay or the cat's okay to do that.
yeah,
Their excuse. They're you know why they're above humans because
that's right.
they have no anger issues.
That's right.
They don't have shadow issues unless of course they got tortured when they're young, puppies and kittens, you know. But usually they're I could tell your dog is a good dog. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
is that a golden retriever or not a Labrador?
He's a Shiba Inu hound mix,
Okay, okay.
but he does kind of look like a lab.
Mm,
But yeah, I know exactly an example of what you're talking about. When I was in sixth grade, I had this teacher named Helen Barnstable. Her name was spelled like barn stable. So my friend Billy would, and she had a very pronounced British accent. Um, and she was an excellent teacher and a very sweet person. And um, she was a guitarist and a singer, and in addition to being our homeroom teacher, and she um, invited me to play a hand drum for some performance, for the parents in the school or something. And there might have been one or two other guitarists or like a recorder or something. And we were playing some song. I think sounded like Renaissance music. I don't know, and it sounded like a sort of 6/8 da 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 da. And that was my job, was to just pat the hand drum in that time over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And I did that. And then towards the end of the song, I was like, holy crap, I don't know when the hell this song is over at all. Holy crap, when do I stop playing dot da 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 dot da 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 dot da 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 da? And Helen Barnstable just looked right in my eyes and stared at me as she played the last dot da 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 dot da 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 dot da 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 dot da 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 dot da da da. And I'm like, where the hell is this going? When does this end? And then I just all of a sudden hit the last note, and so did she.
mm,
And she either, you know, communicated it to me where we were supposed to end and led me to there, or I guessed correctly. But either way, um, all's well that ends well. Literally, it ended
mm.
perfectly, and everyone, wow, what a great performance. I don't know. Um, but I think there was just a thing of like faith
Yep,
in that moment, like
yep. Do you believe in
in
that? Do you believe in faith and free will and
yeah, I think so. I mean,
yeah.
at the end of the day, by faith, I'm just referring to the fact that um, human beings can't read each other's. We can't. Um, uh, we don't have spiritual X-ray vision. You can't like read somebody's intentions perfectly.
Hmm.
Um, and so you can like use your nose and say like, yeah, this smells like a trustworthy person or a not trustworthy person. And those can give us pretty good information,
Hmm.
but no one knows with certainty, no matter what your experience or your hunch is about somebody. No one knows certainly what somebody's deal is.
Hmm.
That implies that at the
You
end of the
can never
day,
know. I mean, you can guess or you can feel an intuition, but you never really know.
and the only way to kind of finish the work of forming a relationship with somebody is through faith.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, I do believe in faith. Like faith is the choice to connect with somebody beyond the obscurities, the shadows or whatever that we're sort of stuck in, whether we like it or not. Um,
Yeah.
so
You know, I have to say I've been looking at this because it's right behind you. Okay, your wall over
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Okay, now that is very much you. It's interesting because I know that's not a mistake. I know the picture frame didn't fall. It's not
Mhm.
hanging, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
It's really like that because if it was hanging, it would be the angle would be on the end on the left hand side, but
Yeah.
it's in the middle. So I'm like, okay,
Hmm. Yeah, my style is pretty eccentric in my home. I
yeah.
can.
No,
Um,
thank you for sharing your home because it
welcome.
reveals a lot about a person. It really does.
Yeah.
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 I love that. I love that, by the way.
Thank you.
I can't show you my background because it's a
That's
mess,
okay.
but
That's all right. Mine is pretty
it's
messy
mine is
too.
very Neptunian. That's why it's kind of blurs and it's
Oh.
Neptunian because we really don't know what's really going on.
Mhm.
But Shadows Grow Fangs is has been out February 7th on Records Man Records if anybody want to check it out. And I'll put your Bandcamp link if anybody wanna check it out, and of course the naming, the spelling of your band, your project. AK Schnock. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to your album when it comes out. I hope we can do another interview.
Be
Yeah,
so happy.
I would love to. What is your astrological sign? I'm just curious.
Yeah, sure. Aquarius.
Okay, that figures. Aquarius is really the genius sign. You know, they're really out there. Yeah, they're really out there. And you must be going through a transformation with your sun in Aquarius right now with Pluto in Aquarius.
I definitely feel up to some big, 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 big changes in my life. Eke Schnock has a tour with EMF and Space Hog that we're supposed to wait until March to
Mhm.
bring this up, but whatever. Um, we're gonna be on the West Coast,
Okay. When is
and
that? When is the tour?
June 14th through June 28th. So if any of your listeners live in major city between Seattle and SoCal, we
Are you
might,
going to San Francisco by any chance?
yes.
Oh yeah. Well, what do you have the date for those? The tour? Let me see.
Don't
Okay.
I don't have the date, but
Yeah.
um, we are either playing in San Fran or Oakland. I can't remember which,
Mm.
but
Well, let's see. I hope it's on the weekend.
yeah.
Okay. And then we look forward to the album. But right now, Shadows Grow Fangs is an EP that's out now. If anybody want to check out your music, I always appreciate the time. Thank you so much for sharing your philosophies and your music and your thoughts and your art.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much,
A
TJ
big
Nocturne.
big shout out to Shameless Promotion PR. You know, she always has amazing clients like you and so many others I've interviewed. I appreciate your time.
I so appreciate your time and allowing us to talk about the music and connect in the themes of it, and I really thank you so much, and shout out to your listeners. I hope you enjoy what you hear. I hope it lands for you in some way.
Yeah, and I know you're on social media, you're on Facebook, Instagram, and I'll be posting. I'll follow you. I don't know if we're friends yet on we might be on Instagram, but I'll follow you. And if you're listening out there, please like, subscribe, and share. Uh, but anyway, thank you, David.
Thank you so much, DJ Nocturne.
Okay. All right.